Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. We have another round of wet weather over the skies of West Dakota, so we're going to send it right over to meteorologist Henry Blakes.
More details coming up in a bit.
Thanks, Henry. This is our second major storm of the week, and all this rain is proving too much for Bismarck's draining system. As a result, the 7th and 9th Street underpasses were underwater most of the day. Andrew Horn picks up the story.
It's not the first time Gina Norton walked into work greeted by a wet floor.
This is like the third time in the last few weeks that we've had to come to water in the basement.
Tuesday morning's rain left a lot more than puddles at the rejuvenation place.
It's about 4 inches deep. There's leaves actually coming up from the drains. All of our equipment has been underwater, so it's pretty devastating actually.
Bismarck took the brunt of another severe weather system. This video shows how difficult it was driving on Bismarck Expressway. At least one car was stranded there. 3rd Street wasn't much better. George Kuntz's phone wouldn't stop ringing from people needing tows.
I suppose we've had probably between 30 and 35 vehicles that have been wet. It's going to be an interesting day. How many more are going to be throughout? I suppose I'll probably do another 25 to 50.
Bismarck police say despite the stuck cars, they didn't have to perform any water rescues. For West Dakota Fox, I'm Andrew Horn.
Here's a look at that 7th Street underpass a few hours ago. You can see the water is almost up to the train tracks there. It eventually abated, but tonight we're expecting a similar scene. All eyes are on the already swollen Missouri River. Levels have been up and down all day. The National Weather Service says the river rose to 13.51 feet this morning, but has now fallen to 13.31. That's still more than a foot below minor flood stage. The storm did a number on Mandan's art in the park. Vendors spent the morning cleaning up. Maddie Jelseth has their story.
Earlier this morning, these tents and crafts were all across the ground. But after a few hours of teamwork, the craft show is back on.
There's something about Bismarck and Mandan. There's a lot of wind here.
Winds gusted to over 50 miles per hour yesterday, ripping tarp tents out of the ground at Mandan's Art in the Park.
A lot of tents blown up in trees, blown across the street. It was a mess.
Which caused a few vendors to call it a day because there was just too much damage done.
The tent looks like spaghetti, you know, the canopy, and so we're gonna just call it quits.
Other vendors salvaged their merchandise to sell at the Art and Craft Show.
There's a few things that were over in that corner that got dinged up a bit, but we just can fix them up. So not really, we didn't lose a lot, just the canopy.
Fame says there are 134 art and craft vendors and 28 food vendors at this year's Art in the Park in Mandan. Art in the Park starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so make sure you guys come down, check out all these cool items. Reporting for West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Maddie Jelseth.
All this storm damage is an insurance nightmare. Agents with State Farm recommend people file a claim if your property has sustained losses. Make sure you take a picture of the damage, then make temporary repairs to prevent additional damage.
Brush Lake was hit really hard. A lot of old native trees that came down with 100+ mile-an-hour wind. Rocks were thrown against houses and ruined siding. Boats were flipped over.
You can call your local insurance agent if you have any questions about filing a claim. Switching gears now, the Mandan Police Department has confirmed a shooting that happened on Monday. Pat Haug with the Mandan Police Department says the 37-year-old victim was found by the McDonald's. Haug says the victim was taken to the hospital for injuries and underwent surgery. Police did not tell us how many shots were fired or where the man had injuries. Haug says the man is expected to be okay. No arrests have been made. The Bismarck Fire Department responded to a rooftop fire at Dan's Supermarket late last night. It happened on South Washington. A ventilation stack on the roof was found displaced by the overnight storm and had smoke coming out of it. Fire crews cut through the roof and found that the wood framework around the vent was burning. Damage repairs are expected to cost upwards of $7,000. Happening now, all flags at the Capitol as well as the White House are flying at half-staff. It's a mark of respect for the victims of last week's shooting at a Maryland newspaper that killed 5. President Trump reportedly initially denied the request to lower the flags for the fallen journalists, but ended up authorizing it earlier today. Berthold police say a suspect who fled from a traffic stop last night may be headed to Dunseith. Police say 23-year-old Devin Daniel Schultz Morrison of Washington State fled on foot around 10 p.m. He was reportedly spotted hiding near the Cenex gas station in Berthold this morning. Police say the public is not in danger, but if you know anything, give them a call. A man wanted in Ward County for drug dealing is arrested near Williston. Williams County Sheriff deputies pulled over John Michael Mincy and discovered he was carrying what appeared to be 121 grams of meth, a handgun, and $7,000 in cash. The Northwest Narcotics Task Force and the McKenzie County K-9 unit all assisted in that arrest. Police dogs in our state have a lot in their job description. One of their most common duties is sniffing out drugs. But what happens if those canines consume or inhale a substance? Daniela Hurtado visited with the Bismarck Police Department K-9 unit to find out more about their protocols.
Canines are often used to scope out where drugs are, but in cases where the dogs are exposed to something toxic, law enforcement says having a plan in place is crucial.
But they could go to a fight or flight and, go to defense and, think they're being in trouble, and that's why we, put them in a muzzle, take them to the vet, and the handler is doing their best first to calm them down.
He says scoping out the area before sending canines in is also important.
There are other stuff the dog may get into, any powder, you're better off not using your dog. And that was long before the fentanyl and everything else became so prevalent around.
Sinclair says this is a method they followed at the PD for more than a decade. Now they have a safety net.
We even had a vet come in and talk about exposure for dogs, giving them our Narcan and what to look for and what not to do.
He says they use the same Narcan officers have been carrying since late last year. Sinclair says they have not had to administer Narcan on a canine yet.
A well-known dog in the Rolla community is back home with his family after it was reportedly stolen last week. The owners of Nico, a 4-year-old red Siberian Husky, says he disappeared last Tuesday. Nico, who is known for greeting guests at the Bilmar Hotel, was found yesterday in a field south of Rolla and turned into Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue. Nico's family says he had a slight limp and seemed disoriented, but does not appear to have any injuries. We're learning of an oil spill near Glenburn tonight. The state's Oil and Gas Division says 80 barrels of oil and 460 barrels of brine spilled at a storage site. It happened Saturday at the Thompson Central Tank Battery 2 miles east of Glenburn. A state inspector will be on location this week. The North Dakota Public Service Commission is approving the first set of decommissioning plans for wind farms. These plans come after new rules for wind farms were adopted last year. The commission says the changes were put in place to ensure that wind projects are properly taken down and cleaned up when the facility is no longer being used. Plans for the first 14 wind projects to be decommissioned were approved on June 27th. Firefighters are working around the clock in Northern California to contain a wildfire that continues to gain ground. The fire has nearly doubled in size over the last 24 hours, now standing at 60,000 acres in Yolo County. It's only 5% contained, despite more than 60 hours of firefighting efforts. About 700 structures are now threatened, but so far no homes have been burned. More than 400 acres of brush are burning in Texas. Firefighters are battling the fire in Palo Pinto County for the second straight day. Officials say the fire is about 5% contained. One firefighter suffered heat exhaustion while battling the flames. Over now to Colorado, firefighters are battling the elements just as much as the flames. Tuesday, dry, hot, windy conditions are fueling this 79,000-acre fire. San Luis Valley Emergency reporting that the wildfire has destroyed 104 homes so far, while 61 remain intact. The blaze has forced the evacuations of more than 2,000 homes since last Wednesday. A 52-year-old illegal Danish immigrant was arrested on suspicion of arson last week in connection to this fire. Around the world, tourists and residents on the island of Bali were forced to take cover following a volcanic eruption on Monday. Bali's Mount Agung spewed rocks and launched lava and ash kilometers into the sky. Many visitors on the Indonesian island reported hearing a loud explosion and eruption lasting 7 minutes. Despite this, tourists at nearby resorts say they feel safe, with some even taking the time to view the ashy skies from afar. In Thailand, it's a race against the clock to rescue 12 boys and their coach from a cave. The group was located on Monday in a partially flooded cave after being trapped for over a week. Now the effort is underway to figure out the best and safest way to get them out. Thai Navy SEAL divers are fitting the boys with special breathing masks in case they decide they have to swim out. Crews are still draining water from the cave and exploring the mountainside for shafts and other entrances to the caverns below, but they say it could take almost a month. Some wild video to show you tonight of the minute a distracted driver, slams into a cop car. As police cruiser comes to a stop, you can see the SUV fastly approaching but not braking. The SUV then plows into the back of the cruiser. Police saying the driver was distracted, telling officers he looked away from the road and didn't see the traffic slowing ahead. All right, it doesn't look like these storms are slowing at all either. Let's send it over to Henry for another look at weather. For a lot of people, the 4th of July means a fun-filled day watching the fireworks show. But for your pet, this can be one of the most frightening nights of the year. Megan Von Barron went to the Souris Valley Animal Shelter to find out how you can keep your furry friends safe.
The sights and sounds of fireworks draw people to watch each year. But pets don't know they're meant for entertainment.
All they know is loud booms and bright flashes. If you put yourselves in their position, it's not too surprising that it can be a frightening experience.
If your pet does get scared, Justin Anderson says each pet is different and will need its own unique care. But there are some common tricks you can try to calm them down.
Finding a quieter place for your pet, making sure your pet is in a secure, comfortable area that they find comforting, and anything that you can do to help with sound in that room.
When a pet gets scared, they might rely on their instincts and run away from the noise.
A lot of pets get out during the 4th of July. In fact, it's one of the highest days of the year for pets to get loose and run away.
It's best to make sure your pet is in a safe and secure location during the fireworks. But Anderson says getting your pet microchipped can lead a lost dog or cat back to its owner.
A microchip is very small. It's about the size of a very small grain of rice, and it's injected right behind the neck. It's something that can be scanned with a handheld device, and that device will give us a registration number that we can look up and get the contact information of the pet owner.
Remembering your pets when you're celebrating the 4th of July. In Minot for West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Megan Von Barron.
Williston will be shooting off fireworks tomorrow night, and city leaders are promising an over-the-top show.
3-inch mortars have to be a distance of 210 feet from any person. They're very powerful, way more powerful than you can buy in any consumer stand. It's all professional-grade pyrotechnics.
The 4th of July fireworks display will be held at the Missouri Valley Fairgrounds tomorrow at 11 p.m. The event is free and will be open to the public. Another spectacular show is slated for the Capitol grounds. The Bismarck Mandan Symphony Orchestra organizes the entire event. They started planning it a year ago. The fireworks show costs about $12,000 and is put on by a contracted pyrotechnics group. Even though the sky won't light up until 10:15, many people start grabbing a seat around 6 o'clock and shopping the vendors. Sean Oban will kick off the evening's performances at 8.
He'll begin with some musical talents of his own. We'll introduce our dignitaries as well as having a presentation of flags.
I want to end tonight on a personal note. We're getting a lot of rain, and often here we repeat the phrase, turn around, don't drown. Last night I found myself trapped in my car in rising waters at the 9th Street underpass. I started to panic, but 2 young men spotted me and jumped into the water. Their names are Marcus Renke and Dylan Brown. Marcus and Dylan were able to push out the car and tow me out of harm's way. They were calm and selfless in a time of crisis, and I just want to take a minute to acknowledge them. The world could use more good-hearted people, and we're lucky that these 2 live in North Dakota. So Dylan and Marcus, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, over now to Henry for another look at our weather before we go.
Yeah, it looks like that kind of weather is going to continue overnight. Right now, we've got showers and storms pushing into southwestern North Dakota and northwestern, well, rather northeastern Montana. That will gradually make its way more into the Peace Garden State tonight, giving some of us a chance of another round of severe weather. That's mostly going to be tonight, but by the morning hours, most of this will be out of our viewing area, making way for a gorgeous Independence Day. The only thing is that it's going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Otherwise, temperatures will be in the 70s and near 80. Thursday looks good. Friday, the weekend looks good if you like hot and humid. Looks like we're going to be near 90 degrees and above 90 on Saturday. Be mindful of that. I know it's the weekend. We're all going to be out, so be sure to keep cool and do what you can when you're going to be outdoors.
All right, roll up those windows and have a fabulous 4th of July. There's no show tomorrow, so we'll see you on Thursday.